You are watching us live in Fundong, in the northwest region of Cameroon. It is time for the news here on DBS Television. We begin with the headlines. End of Ramadan feast in a few days from now. Muslim faithfuls are completing preparations, especially with what they will wear on that day. Report says cloth sellers in the markets are into serious business. It is holiday period, and another sector that has witnessed a boom in their activities is the transportation sector, with some agencies now experiencing a shortage in the number of vehicles available, an opportune moment for them to increase prices, though illegally. And in health, there is hope in the horizon, as vulnerable populations and patients suffering from pathologies will now benefit from the universal health coverage, a good news given by the Minister of Health recently in Yaoundé. Details of these stories and more would be yours up next in the news. Please do not go away, we'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast here on DBS Television, this 11th day of June 2018. My name is Mange Venasius Fola. We begin with this religious news. A few days to go to the feast of Ramadan. Dressmakers are at the peak of their activities. Rael Ule Abia tells us that Muslim faithfuls who used the wrappers are making business as women and men get ready to have a pleasant feast. We have details in her report.
We are at the Douala Central Market. It is all busy as usual, but our interest was not in general, but for the wrapper sellers and other cloth makers. In our concern, the wrapper sellers seem busy, given that Muslim faithfuls are preparing for the celebration of the Ramadan. To them, it is a moment of high sales.
We getting more command, as you can see around them. We can see what is going on. Well, many people that are coming buying to go and sell over that place have received much command as I need.
Are there new wrappers in the market?
Yeah, there are new ones in the market. Every like this time, I tell you that this is the season for wrap, and new one are supposed to enter.
Thus, there is an availability of different qualities of the wrappers, and prices are affordable to all who need it.
This is the time that we used to say it well to them. We used to say it dearly, like them. They can come to have the one super was, then we give them super, and that super was so nice and dear, like 50,000 francs. And that is the time we used to get money. Like we can call it wrapper season. Wahala, that is wahala. We can call this season now our season, because that Christmas time, we Christian, we don't used to buy wrapper. We only buy jeans, wahala and shirts. That is how it be. But depend on this ceremony, is a nice ceremony for we wrapper business people.
While they make good sales, they tell us at their own corners and stepping on the machines, for it is only a few days to go to the feast. Comparing with last year's event, things are better this year, so they say, and all thanks to Allah. But like Oliver Twist, they complain of power cuts that leads to delay in delivery. Sometimes the electricity goes off for so long that they have decided to adopt new measures to make up with the command and pressures from their customers.
We remain in religion, and this time we look at the Night of Destiny. This is what our staff lady, Wamba Tansi Mirabel, will be looking at in this report, when she says that Muslim faithfuls are intensifying prayers ahead of the feast of Ramadan these last 10 days. Her report.
The
intensification of prayers, almsgiving, and charitable works are some of the focal points of Muslim faithfuls these last 10 days of fasting ahead of the feast of Ramadan. In the West region, precisely at the Bafoussam Central Mosque, the Muslim community has not been left out. Each day, particularly from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., the Muslims are in absolute communication with Allah, a moment of intense spiritual commitment with God, which, according to one of theirs, as he underscores, involve the Night of Destiny, a night which is compared to 88 years of adoration with Allah's blessings showered on those who are spiritually committed and are able to resist the temptation of falling asleep, particularly during these wee hours. If the essence of fasting, according to the Quran, is for spiritual cleansing and for fellow Muslims to be closer to Allah more than ever before, then the night of destiny, which comes up once a year, is the opportunity for them to do so and go closer to God.
We wish Muslim faithfuls all the best, that they intensify their effort to have as much blessings during these last 10 days as they can. We now talk something else. The 2017-2018 academic year has come to an end in most primary and secondary school across the country. Thus has led to the massive presence of holiday makers in traveling agencies. What are some of the measures taken to ensure the safety of passengers and a smooth journey? Ate Bonaventure visited some traveling agencies in Douala and brought back the following report for the news.
The summer holiday is out once again, and as usual, bus stations or travel agencies are being flooded by passengers, most of whom are pupils and students. After 9 months of studies, these passengers have decided to either go back home to meet their families or change their environment. Given the numerous accidents occurring in our highways, many travel agencies have undertaken special security measures to ensure that travelers' journeys are safe and secure. Some have decided to impose alcohol tests on their drivers before every journey, while others have employed more drivers to ensure that a driver does not cover more than 500 kilometers a day. The security situation in our country has prompted some passengers to be more cautious. This passenger, for example, has decided to report every unscrupulous act on the highway.
That since it's this is the whole period of holidays, there are many passengers. They usually have the tendency, the agencies, they usually have the tendencies of overloading. And I think there's a major precaution that each agency should take care of. Which I notify the director, the main person is in charge. I notify the person. That's the measure that we can take so that actions can be taken against that.
Oftentimes, passengers complain of thievery in parks and along the highway, and passengers have been called upon to be vigilant.
Passengers to travel to the agency, like ensuring security guards or by ensuring bags. You can say you can come to an agency early in the morning, you keep your bag aside. Then very soon when going, you won't see your bag. You know it's the holidays time. Places are very rough and it's very risky. We are actually in Douala, so places is not easy. So we have to take good measures by ensuring guards or adequate measures.
It has been noticed that apart from VIP buses, almost all buses in agencies in Douala have no seat belts, and it is a cause for concern. A musician once sang, "The road, despite its ugly nature, does not kill." This implies that if everyone adopts a civil and professional character, journeys will be more secure and safer.
We hope maximum caution and security are taken along our highways to save lives. Youths of the Archdiocese of Douala have celebrated the Archdiocesan Day of the African Child, a ceremony that took place over the weekend in Douala equally marked the end of the Catholic Education Week. We have details in this report.
Let the Little Children Come to Me was the center of reflection that brought together primary school kids of the Archdiocese of Douala for the celebration of the Archdiocesan Day of the African Child, 9th of June 2018 at St. Peter and Paul Cathedral, Bonadibong, Douala. Presiding at the Eucharistic celebration, Reverend Father Clement Nola Abodi, who was the personal representative of the Archbishop, was assisted by the Catholic Education Secretary and the Archdiocesan Youth Chaplain. Preaching from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 13 to 16, the Cathedral Canon reminded all those involved with the upbringing of these children, especially teachers, that the only heritage we can bequeath to our children is leading them to Christ, an opinion the Archdiocesan Youth Chaplain shared.
If we are caretakers and we don't hand over these children to the real person who owns them, we have failed in our mission. That is why this Day of the Child is very important for us to tell Jesus that we are sorry to have maltreated them or to have mismanaged what you have given us. So it is therefore important that this day that we celebrate children should know that they belong to Christ.
This can only be done through a way of life. He called on these educators to adopt the spirituality of a child by always remaining attached to God. He highlighted the fact that most parents have abandoned the upbringing of their children to the television, social media, or the society. He regretted that not all is taught in schools and basic education is irreplaceable. Although the Day of the African Child comes up on the 16th of June every year, the Catholic Education Agency of the Archdiocese of Douala anticipated the day.
The Catholic Education Agency of the Archdiocese of Douala, like any other Catholic education agency, is in charge of the education, that is the integral education of the youth. And so the youth are part of the African child. And as part of the African child, we could not be indifferent. And the reason why all our peoples are found during this Mass. So we have come to commemorate this day, which is dedicated to the African child. After the Soweto incidents, we made the world to discover that there was an importance to be given to the African child. And so we have to valorize the day by participating.
The day was equally used to mark an end of the Catholic Education Week, a period that was characterized by activities meant at asserting that Catholic schools have stood the test of time in integral education, and values and capacities which have been developed in the children are to be jealously preserved, else they will be drowned in the ocean of change being imposed by the society. At the end of the Mass, prizes for the Bible quiz were given, with Holy Trinity Annex Mbopi coming first, followed by St. Louis Bonaberi and Les Amis de Jésus Primary School Bonamosadi came third. The last part of the day was used for cultural manifestation.
The third General Assembly of Babutes took place in Douala over the weekend. Speeches and cultural manifestations characterized the event, as we hear in this paper by Buba Jallo.
Coming together for economic and social development of the Babute people has come into focus during their third General Assembly that just took place in Douala.
Our principal objective is to make sure that the culture of the people of our people cannot lose in the time. You want to make sure that all of the young people, our kids, will grow up with the idea that they are coming from a very great and a very, very strong community. This community, which is called Vute.
No outstanding development of a people is said to can come by an accident, but rather through hard work and togetherness. These were some of the issues identified by the end of the general come together.
Call upon all Vutes or Upper Sanaga division that we call them to come and join us. Let us unite and let us be strong. Let us try to develop our villages, our towns, and to have at least things like hospitals, association, to make known our culture, dance, sculptures, all the like. What goes along with our social, our culture, our origin.
The rich cultural manifestations of the Babutes were some of the remarkable events of the General Assembly of the Babutes 2018 in Douala.
We move over to the north of Cameroon. Some 7 tractors have been offered to some cotton farmers in the north region. This was in a bid to ameliorate cotton production in that part of the country, as we hear in this report by Rael Ule Abia.
The Cameroon's agricultural system has been on their feet working on how to update farming to second generation. In all of these, it's settled that agricultural mechanism has to be put at the forefront. It is for this reason that CNPCC and Sode Cotton ran a program that sought to ameliorate cotton farming in the north region of Cameroon. Thus, 7 tractors with their plow disc, region plows and drills were handed to some 7 farmers who carry out subsistence cotton farming. Officiating the handing over ceremony, the governor of the north region, Abate Edi, observed that the farming sector is faced with some difficulties but in reference to the Bible, he called on these farmers to go and multiply. In an anecdote, he reminded the cotton producers that receiving these tractors, it is not only for them to grow their farms, but equally for them to reach out to others in need of the services. In all of this, it is in the bid to better the farming conditions, thus increase cotton production in the region. Each of the farmers received a tractor key from an administrator.
We wish them well in their agricultural endeavor. We move over to Yaoundé in the central region. Vulnerable populations such as pregnant women, children aged between 0 and 15, and patients suffering from pathologies shall be the first to benefit from the Universal Health Coverage Program. Thus was the revelation made public by the Public Health Minister after a validation session of the National Technical Group handling the program was held recently. We have details with our Yaoundé-based correspondent, Baongo Francis.
The National Technical Group of the Universal Health Coverage in Cameroon has sat recently in a validation session in Yaoundé. The session, which was chaired by Public Health Minister Andre Mama Fuda, had two major points on its agenda. First, the validation of Phase 1 of the implementation of the Universal Health Coverage in the country, and second, the validation of the registration methodology and affiliation of the beneficiaries. Since the beginning of this program, collaboration and support of Cameroonians has yielded to the provision of the health care and service basket and protocol for such care and its course and the architecture of the universal health coverage. The implementation of this coverage takes into account the epidemiology and various cases of mortality to which our populations are exposed, and as such, first, the vulnerable populations shall be taken into preference. They are children aged between 0 and 15 years, patients exposed to major pandemics such as HIV and AIDS, and those under long and costly treatments such as dialysis and cancer, who present more than 60% of patients who attend our health facilities.
We have 1,000 pregnant women per year, and for other populations is concerned the take care of HIVs, malaria, tuberculosis, dialysis, cancers, and the problem concerning malnutrition and other health promotions. There is the first phase concerning the universal coverage, where the cost will be to 335 billion per year. And the second point is concerned the registration. We decide to have unique number concerning every people in Cameroon. Then we will have a unique number per person.
The issue of the access of all citizens to quality health care has been the concern of the state for several years now. The political and moral imperative of universal health coverage is growing in Africa, where more and more acknowledgement is made that progress towards universal health coverage promotes equity, respect for fundamental rights, improve health care and human security.
We remain in Yaoundé. The Republic of Italy has recently celebrated its 72nd National Day. To commemorate the event here in Cameroon, the Italian ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Marco Romati, organized a reception at the residence in Yaoundé, where top officials of the state and other diplomats were invited. Baongo Francis once more completes that story from Yaoundé.
Feliz Festa della Repubblica in Italia, meaning in English, Happy Republic's Day to Italy. These were the type of pleasant wishes that were extended to the Italian ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Marco Romiti, during the commemoration of his country's Republic's Day, observed every 2nd of June. The Festa della Repubblica was celebrated in Cameroon at the Italian residence in Yaoundé, where gathered many Italian nationals who were joined by Cameroon's top government officials, diplomatic corps, partners, and friends of the Italian embassy in the country. The simple but yet significant celebration, which was done in the open in the form of a gala night, was appropriate for the further strengthening of bonds of friendship between the two nations. This was the first celebration of the event in the country for His Excellency Marco Romiti, who is holding the position of the Italian ambassador to Cameroon just few months after taking over from Her Excellency Samuela Isopi, who recently came to the end of her diplomatic stay. In the lone speech of the day, the top Italian diplomat gave a brief review of the evolution of the Italian Republic, born in 1946, and equally revisited the great cooperation ties that exist between our two nations for decades now in areas such as education and infrastructural development, citing the Piccini Group and the ongoing construction of the Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé.
Our relations, what I say, the bilateral relations are now excellent. Also thanks to the visits of our heads of state in 2016, His Excellency Sergio Mattarella came here in Cameroon, our President of the Republic, and in 2017 His Excellency Paul Biya went to Rome. So this gave rise to a series of, how can I say, increased interest at government, but also at the level of peoples.
The ceremony then continued with the sharing of the Italian culinary specialties and its liquors. All those invited had the opportunity to taste the Italian pasta, known as the very best in the world, and equally the delicious pizzas that left all fingers licking. It was with this eating and drinking that the happy celebration of the 72nd Italian Republic's Day went down this year in our country in a very positive note.
From Yaoundé, we move over to Boya in the southwest region. 16 groups in Fako and Mime divisions have received a total of close to 84 million francs CFA to improve on their agricultural and livestock production. The financial package was handed over to the groups recently by the national coordinator of ASEFA, Dr. Buba Momene. Philippe Sote has the details.
Some 16 agro-pastoral groups in Fako and Meme divisions of the southwest region now have reason to smile following a close to 84 million francs grant from ASEFA. It is a program charged with ameliorating family agro-pastoral exploitation competitivity, a joint project of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Ministry of Livestock, Fisheries and Animal Industries. The coordinator of the project, Dr. Buba Mumini, was in the southwest region to hand over the financial package.
These projects are going to improve their production, their productivity, and also their income. We are trying to modernize their equipment so that they can produce more, they can transform the product, especially oil and cocoa production, and also they can sell more to improve their revenue.
The financial package, which their SEFA coordinator believed will greatly improve the living conditions of group members and by extension their families and communities.
Since we started this program, we have financed almost 2 billion CFA subsidy for the farmers. This is the first time in this county the money is going directly to the farmers. And in only one region, in less than 6 years, we have financed 2 billion CFA going on the field.
The southwest region, having been identified as one of the regions with the best results of the program, the coordinator then advised them to keep strictly to the engagement of the program.
They should respect the engagement that is written inside the document of the project and the convention. That is, they should realize their project. If it is a poultry farm, they should build this poultry farm, they should equip it and they should stock it. If it is a piggery, they should build it. If it is an oil, transformation for the oil, for the oil, or palm oil, sector, they should do it accordingly so that they can transform more oil and they will sell more.
The farmers, for their part, said the money will help them move into some form of mechanized production.
This money is going to help us to buy our machines, cassava grater, oiling machines for corn, and the one of corn flour and starch.
So far, there are close to 200 advisors deployed in the field who will assist the groups in putting the money into profitable use. ASEFA is sponsoring close to 600 projects so far in the Southwest region.
From Boya, we move over to the Northwest region, and this time in Bali. The 2017 administrative account for the Bali Council in the Northwest region has witnessed a drop of about 59 million francs CFA. The evaluation was made by Mengo Silvanos during an ordinary session which held recently in Bali Town Council. Williams Amo reports from Bamenda.
During the period under review, which covers from January 1 to December 31, 2017, the Bali Council has witnessed a drop in revenue of 58,803,875 CFA francs. This revelation came during the 2017 administrative account session of the Council.
I wish to remark here that all the efforts and resources assembled as recommended by this honorable session to improve on revenue collection and tax recoveries for 2017 was drained by the ongoing socio-political crisis in the Northwest Southwest regions, the magnitude of which we all are witnesses to.
According to the mayor, the drastic drop is as a result of the ongoing socio-political crisis, which is working against all efforts aimed at productivity.
The people have taken a stand that they cannot pay taxes, and there's no way when I send out my staff to work for recoveries, they chase them away. So some people threaten to harm them. So that's what is happening.
Almost all of the council's 235 million revenue for 2017 has been spent on the construction of classrooms, installation of solar systems, rehabilitation of roads, and the supply of minimum packages, among others. Among the 15 projects envisaged for 2018 is the construction and development of a 2-megawatt solar plant in Bali and the supply of some farm equipment to some 17 women farming groups in the area. Mayongo Ajong Silvanus appreciated the contributions from partners and pleaded that they be not discouraged by the threatening atmosphere. Speaking during the session, the divisional officer, while representing the senior divisional officer, urged councillors not to give up despite the bottlenecks of the crisis, to be ambassadors of peace and to work for the interests of the grassroots population.
And in some cultural news tonight, the dinner gala dance of La Cotier Dance School took place over the weekend here in Douala under the patronage of Dr. Fritz Tone. It was an all-night event covered with artistic dances, karate and fashion parade. Ndo Vanessa was part of that gala dance and now brought back the following result.
Swaying hands, majestic feet movements and artistic choreography characterized the Coastal Gala Dinner Night of the end-of-year party of La Cotier Dance School. This event that took place in the presence of the government delegate to the Douala City Council, Dr. Fritz Tone, was an all-night party with prestations from students of La Cotier and other professional dancers like Les Carmeux. This dinner night was equally an occasion to evaluate the students after a series of dance classes throughout the year. On the scene, the students of Grass Malin demonstrated their dancing skills in harmony to the various dance constituted of classic dance, jazz, hip-hop, and street jazz. Other groups like Les Carmeux intrigued the crowd with this move, drawing their attention to the extent of everyone trying to get a shot. Equally, the students of Maître Emmanuel Wakam mounted the stage with karate. Other live programs with orchestras equally marked the activities of the Coastal Dance Gala Dinner Night. An occasion that also brought designers, family and friends together with La Cotier Dance School to make the end-of-year party a remembering one which has traditionally been ongoing for 17 years.
That was the bit we put together in this edition of the news. Ladies and gentlemen, a news in which we heard about the end of Ramadan feast, which is just a few days from now, with Muslim faithfuls busy completing preparations, especially with what they will hear. We equally heard about the holiday period, which is already on, and many bus stations are experiencing a boom in transportation sector, with agencies now experiencing a shortage in the number of vehicles available. And equally in the health news that we got from Yaoundé, there is hope in the horizon as vulnerable populations and patients suffering from pathologies will now benefit from the Universal Health Coverage Program. That was the news that was given by the Minister of Public Health, Andre Mama Fuda. It was with that we have come to the end of this edition of the news. Ladies and gentlemen, the next newscast will be coming up at 9 p.m. with Luke Sage, Didier Nyang. As for me, we will be together again tomorrow, same time, for what would have made news. Until then, good night.